Dison here. Today I'm going to show you how to build the classic, the original catfishing noodle out of a swimming pool noodle. This one I call Little Boy. This one is Fat Man. The one we're going to build today is the Little Boy. You can see the difference. Fat Man has a larger diameter than Little Boy. That's the only difference. But these have been sufficient through most of our fishing, so I don't see a reason not to show you how to do these. These will work well in just about any condition, river or lake. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is measure out a piece of pipe and cut it with our PVC cutter. Alright. Just make you a little mark there. Your PVC cutter. Alright. And now we'll put a cap on one end. Now I normally would glue these, but I'm at my dinner table, and if I did this at home, my wife would probably murder me. So you'll know you are supposed to glue these, but I'm not gluing this one for the example. And you want two caps on these, a cap on each end, and this one you're going to have to drill a little hole, a pilot hole, so you can put an eyelet in. Let me drill that hole right quick. PVC is surprisingly easy to drill through, just make sure you don't get your fingers. Easy enough. Take one of your eyelets, screw it in the top. You can do this with a screwdriver, but once you get it started, you can do it with your hands. And this is going to go right on the top of the cap, but we're going to cut our piece for length here. And I usually just measure them, eyeball them. They don't have to be exactly perfect. Just take your razor knife next to your finger and just kind of roll it, and it'll be surprisingly close. Just pop it loose like that and slide it on here. Now a lot of people will glue these on, but there's really no point. In another video I'm going to show you how to replace one of these once it's worn out, because these will last probably a good 10 years. We've had some last a lot longer. But if they're out in the sun and the weather, about 10 years, you'll have to replace them. And if you glue them, you pretty much have to throw it away and start over. If you don't glue them, as I did not glue this one, then it's very easy to replace. But I'll show you that shortly. In another video, I'll show you that. But you put your cap on. Now you've got your noodle and your eyelet on there. Now it's time to cut your string. And I use the braided line. I've got some of the twisted line. The braided line is a little a smaller diameter, but it's actually stronger and it won't fray. It won't unravel like the twisted line will. And I normally measure out about 5 feet. That's 3 feet there. Okay, that's about 5 feet right there. You're probably wondering why I chose a feminine color like pink. This is not the most masculine for most fishermen. But the thing about this, being this bright pink, when it's out on the water, this is the most visible of any of the colors I've found. Orange is a pretty good color, but a lot of states won't allow you to use orange because they reserve those for ships and stuff like that. But these, the pink stands out very well. The blues and the greens, blues you have to kind of get closer to them. But when this thing starts popping up, you can see this a long way across a lake or a river. And of course, just tie your string on there, and you can use any kind of knot you like. I do a simple slip knot and then double knot it. It's not going anywhere. We've done it for a long time this way. and it won't come off. And then to make sure it doesn't unravel, take a cigarette lighter, just alright. Now that's not going to fray or come undone. Next thing we want to do is put on a sinker. Now I use these little slip sinkers. Hardest thing is to get them in the hole. And I like to come up about 6 inches. I'm going to do an extra inch, 7 inches. And all you do is tie a knot after your sinker is on there. That way your sinker will go to the bottom, but your bait can still float. And that's a good 6 inches. And also if you're in shallower water, I have these set for 5 feet, but if you're in shallower water, this will go up and will allow, you know, a higher reach for your bait. Once you get that on, the next thing we do is put on a circle hook. I use number 3 circle hooks for legs. You can use number 4, they're slightly bigger, but number 3 seems to do good. That's what we've used for years. See if I can get this through there. Alright. And I use that same little slip knot and double knot it. And then I do the same thing with a cigarette lighter. Burn that little end there just to make sure it doesn't unravel. And you can trim that down further if you want. So there is one noodle, but we're not done yet. There's one other thing that we're going to do to this. But this we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Just catch it with your finger. Wrap this thing up around your noodle. And your hook actually hooks into the noodle itself. And these can go in over and over and will, you know, not mess anything up. Now a couple of more steps we're going to do. In a lot of states, these require you to have a reflective strip along one side of it. And that's good. And it's also really good for if you're fishing with these at night. If you don't have that reflective thing on there, you can shine your light right over it and never miss it. But if you have a spotlight and it hits one of these things, it's going to shine up like an alligator's eyes. It will do wonderful. So that's the next thing we're going to do. And I'm just going to wrap a piece around here, see what length we need. And I always overlap these just a little bit, so the sticky part will actually stick to more of the reflective tape. The hardest part about this reflective tape is getting the backing off. Alright, just pull that off. Try to get it as square as you can. Some of them aren't. That's alright. Alright, now you're almost ready to fish. Another hack that I do with these, another little trick, is we normally run 40 something of these at a time. And when you're putting them out in the water, it's easy to forget how many you put out or if you've got them all. What you do, I've already made some of these up, so this is going to be my third one that I've made today. But just take your Sharpie and right at this end, write the number 3. It's not a very pretty 3, but it'll get the job done. Now what this does, when you put these in your basket, I always put them in like a tote from Walmart, and I always have this end out. The hook end will always go at the bottom, this end out, so you can always see all of your numbers. So if you think you've got them all in, all you have to do is count your numbers up, and if you're missing one, okay, number 32 is gone. We've got to find number 32. Then you keep looking. That way you'll be sure to get all of them back, because if you leave them behind, that's littering and that's illegal. Another thing that my family and I do on ours is put your name and phone number on them. If you leave these in the water and a game warden comes along and finds them and somehow tracks it back to you, it's littering. However, if you have your name and phone number on there, they'll see that you're conscientious about it and that you want your noodle returned, and they'll know that you just lost it. You didn't intentionally leave it behind. So I put it in big letters. Of course, it's not very pretty handwriting, but it doesn't have to be. And then I'll put a phone number. And that's all you get of my phone number. We have area code 318 here. So once you put your name and phone number on them, if you lose one, another fisherman comes upon it or a game warden comes upon it, they'll see, hey, he's got a name and phone number on here. I'll call him, get his noodle back. And that's all there is to it. All you have to do now is add bait and you're ready to fish. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention on here is you'll spend much more time collecting all the materials to put this together than you will to actually build it. This is materials that took me 3 stores to get to. Had to go to, some of it came from Amazon, some of it came from Walmart, some of it came from Lowe's, because you got to buy your PVC, your noodles and all of this stuff. If you don't want to bother making these, I sell them at very reasonable prices on my website. I make them here in Louisiana, so they're a United States product. Now, of course, I don't know where the products, the individual components are made, but these are put together in Louisiana and I ship them straight from my house. But if you'd like to see an example of what these things look like when they're catching fish, take a look at this. That's what we want to see. Okay. All right. We're catching fish.